It's funny how memory works, isn't it? For as many games or shows you've always been nostalgic for, I can clearly remember loving them when you were a kid. There are just as many, if not more, series and pieces of media you totally forgot even existed as you grew up. But then, completely out of nowhere, you'll remember one of those childhood shows you once forgot about, as if it was living dormant in the back of your mind. I've experienced that a couple of times before, but the topic of this video has to do with the most recent childhood show I randomly remembered. In the middle of the night, right before going to bed, I faintly recalled an anime I watched when I was really little. I could only recall very vague details about the show and drew a blank when it came to its name. The only aspects I could remember were that the main cast were a bunch of superpowered child soldiers, and there was a character with a tiger mask with ties to the main character. The next day, I went on Reddit to ask people if they knew the show I was thinking of. A couple hours after I made my post, someone commented with the title Tai Chi Chasers. I looked up the name to be sure it was the show I was thinking of and was hit with a wave of nostalgia the instant I saw the characters in the promotional material. Through looking into Tai Chi Chasers and rewatching the show in full, I discovered that nobody's made a video on it before. It struck me as odd because you can find videos in a similar style to this one on pretty much every animated show that aired in the early 2000s to 2010s. I mean, that's basically, Jordan Fringe's whole career. But that means this show in particular is an opportunity I can't pass up. Alright? This is my calling here. So allow me, Shiro Matsunoki, owner of the Matsunoki Cafe, to possibly reawaken childhood memories from the deepest abyss of your minds as I talk about the forgotten series, Tai Chi Chasers. So whether you're new here or a returning customer, sit down, relax, and enjoy the conversation with a cup of joe.
Both a blessing and a curse, reasons without rhyme. Searching for a sign, find what your soul is seeking. Searching for a sign, and you'll see what you'll be.
Tai Chi Chasers is a Korean and Japanese anime co-produced by JM Animation and Toei. Yes, that Toei. It originally aired in South Korea in April of 2007 and ran for 3 seasons until ending in January of 2008. You can tell it was a kids anime from the 2000s just from the main cast on the cover alone. We have the whole 5-man band accounted for, the headstrong, hotshot protagonist, the too cool for school looking Lancer type dude, the relatively smart child looking character, the big dumb guy, and the girl. Yeah, girl. My favorite kind of personality. Oh, sorry, my bad. I was reading a potential script for Digimon Frontier by accident. Anyway, the main characters of Tai Chi Chasers consist of... Oh. Seriously, I can't be the only one who sees the similarities, right? Right. This show is like a weird fusion of Digimon Frontier and Bakugan, because that is just straight up Marucho. Don't worry, I'm just joking. The show isn't anywhere near as derivative as I'm making it out to be. The art style is admittedly pretty generic, but ultimately gets the job done. It wouldn't be until 2011 when 4Kids dubbed the show in English and brought it to the West. This isn't the first Toei anime they dubbed, to be fair. I bring up their One Piece dub because the main character of Tai Chi, a boy named Rai, is voiced in the dub by Bella Hudson, who is also the 4Kids VA for Luffy. I will say though, Bella did a better job voicing Rai than she did Luffy. She also voiced Akiza in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, so she certainly is a talented voice actor. There are a lot of voice actors in Tai Chi Chasers who you might recognize from other 4Kids dubs. Tom Wayland, Mark Thompson, Veronica Taylor, Jason Griffith, and funnily enough, one of the main antagonists of the series, Luca, is voiced by Wayne Grayson, the voice of Joey Wheeler. Then again, he's also the voice of Yugi's grandpa and Professor Banner from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, so I shouldn't be too surprised he has this much range. Honestly, the best part about looking into these 4Kids voice actors is seeing how many of them are still in the business today. Unfortunately, only 2 of the anime's 3 seasons received an English dub. In 2012, 4Kids Entertainment went bankrupt and sold off all their licenses. Then they went bankrupt again in 2017 before finally closing for good. I very much doubt whoever has the rights to Tai Chi Chasers is interested in dubbing the final season. Most people don't even remember this show exists, so it'd be a dumb financial move to revive it. On top of that, 4 kids not finishing their dubs for the anime they licensed is more common than you think. But enough about the voice cast. What's the show about? Tai Chi Chasers is an action-adventure anime heavily inspired by Chinese and Korean mythology. 2 humanoid races from another world, known as the Tigeroids and the Dragonoids, are in a large-scale war against each other over magical artifacts called Tai Chi cards. There are 1,000 Tai Chi symbols that were inscribed onto 2 tablets. Each nation took hold of 1 tablet of 500 characters. However, the Dragonoid army tried to take the other tablet to have all 1,000 symbols for themselves. The Tigeroid Emperor decided to destroy his side's tablet, causing the 500 symbols to take on the form of cards and scatter themselves throughout the human world. Each card has a unique ability indicated by the Korean Hanja character labeled on it, and a Tigeroid or Dragonoid use these devices called activators to scan these cards and utilize these magical abilities. The first 2 episodes do a decent job of introducing us to the main cast and central premise. Our main character is this red-haired boy named Rai. He starts off the show living as a human with his mother. His dad is like most anime dads, not present. However, his ordinary life would come to an abrupt end when a Dragonoid warrior named Luca breaks into his house and tries to kill Rai. Rai's mom shows up and pushes the boy outside, and then an explosion occurs that utterly wrecks the house. Luca comes out of the wreckage pretty much unscathed, but Rai's mom is nowhere to be found. This is when Rai comes to discover he's actually a Tigeroid, which leads to him working with the Tigeroid's armed forces, the titular Tai Chi Chasers. Rai is the typical hot-blooded shonen MC, but he has a bit of angst to him. He can be stubborn and aggressive to everybody, which is understandable since his mom just died when he got dragged into the war. By the way, I was expecting them to reveal at the end of episode 1 that she lived, but no, they held back on the reveal for quite a few episodes, which surprised me. 4 kids decided to not soften that many edges off the original sub version from what I could tell, and I kind of respect that. It takes a while for Rai to warm up to the other chasers and truly consider himself part of the team. He can be really annoying with how often he yells and complains, especially in the first season. Once he does start acting friendly towards his teammates, it can be fun seeing him bounce off their respective personalities, although he still gets on my nerves every once in a while even then. Speaking of the other chasers, let's talk about them. First off is Senna, the girl with the force of habit. Senna is the leader of the chasers, acting mature and focused at all times. She's also the most intelligent member of the team, coming up with a majority of their combat strategies. However, she can be rather bossy in her role due to expecting her teammates to just follow her orders and getting very upset whenever they goof off. She's basically the Gwen Tennyson of the team. Finn serves as essentially the polar opposite of Rai. He uses water and ice cards, he's level-headed, naturally talented at everything, and generally goes with the flow. He doesn't emote all that much, but under that stoic expression is a heart that cares deeply. He's also extremely focused on the goal of collecting all the Tai Chi cards to the point that he dreams of nothing else but achieving it. Tori is the youngest member of the team and is a total prankster. He'll constantly use Tai Chi cards to pull tricks on others in order to make them laugh. He grew up in an orphanage with no recollection of his parents, only having the pendant he wears as a possible connection to them. Because of that, his pranks and general behavior are just his eccentric way of expressing himself when he doesn't know any better. While Tori can certainly be annoying at times, even more annoying than Rai, I still think he's a likable character with some fun cards at his disposal. Donha initially seems to just be the fat guy stereotype, the character who is obsessed with food and generally really dumb. But while Donha loves eating at every opportunity, he's far from stupid. In fact, he's arguably the most knowledgeable of the team when it comes to Tai Chi and the different meanings of symbols. He serves as the big brother for the team, often being jovial with Tori and Rai, but still able to take things seriously in the heat of the moment. Alongside the main 5, the other 2 mainstays for the show are Komorka, the wise elderly Tigeroid who's there to look after the kids and occasionally offer words of wisdom, and Hawk, a white tiger mascot who uses his spiritual senses to locate the lost symbols. The series follows an episodic format where the team goes to a random location in search of a new Tai Chi card. A lot of the time, the specific power of the Tai Chi card thereafter will coincide with the moral lesson of the episode. Rai is mainly the one learning these morals as he develops a fondness for the rest of the team throughout season 1. At the end of episode 6, we see a lone individual wearing a tiger mask watching from afar as the Tai Chi Chasers fly away. For the rest of this season and season 2, this masked warrior will serve as a mysterious ally to Rai and by extension, the rest of the Chasers. They always show up when Rai is in a lot of danger or needs a new card to save his teammates. Yes, this is exactly who you think it is. This show is honestly way more serialized than I initially thought it was. It's not on the level of Detention Air where every episode builds off the events of the previous one. It's more on the level of Justice League Unlimited, where a majority of the episodes tie into an overarching plot, but there are a good number of one-off episodes in between, if that makes any sense. I was legitimately shocked to see how many episodes across the 3 seasons actually matter to the overarching plot beyond just, oh, this card shows up in a later episode. But in contrast to my praise of the serialization of the show, I don't have much to say about the animation. It's okay. Episodes often recycle animations, particularly characters swiping cards with their activators. In episode 7, they play the exact same clip of Dragonoid warrior Luca scanning a card 4 times within the span of like 2 minutes. While the card attacks and effects are decently animated, like Rise Fire attacks, the characters themselves don't really move that much during fights, which is unfortunate. Outside of the battles, there's a lot of bland cinematography going on in the show. A majority of the shots are generic, like conveying conversations through basic shot, reverse shot, and having characters stand in place and only move their mouths during scenes of exposition. This show was made on the cheaper side, to say the least. Obviously, I wasn't going into this expecting to see the same level of superb animation as Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, but even by 2007 standards, we had anime like Gurren Lagann. Heck, Bakugan, a show similar to Tai Chi Chasers that came out the same year, had more unique visuals going on and relied less on reused animations. The last 3 episodes of season 1 set up new plot points as much as they pay off already existing ones. Episodes 11 and 12 give us a good amount of insight into Senna's character. She's very strict and no nonsense as a leader because her dad and older sisters are all very talented leaders in the Dragonoid army. She wants to follow in her dad's footsteps, but after saving her dad from the Dragonoids at the end of episode 11, he expresses how she's a wonderful daughter, but she has a lot to work on when it comes to being a leader. Then in episode 12, a depressed Senna decides to stay behind and let the rest of the team handle the mission without her, with a good speech from Rai about how great of a leader Senna actually is. Even if he doesn't always agree with her orders, she regains her spirit and directs her teammates to victory. At the end of the episode, Senna elects to step down as the sole captain of the Chasers and share the position with Rai. And while the two bicker for a bit, they ultimately laugh and really start getting along. It's honestly kind of sweet. And then in episode 13, the team come across a forest that, due to the Tai Chi card there, gigantifies everything around it from the trees to the insects. Rai happens to save a beetle whose swarm was possessed by one of the Dragonoid warriors, Ave. He gets a hold of the big ring card, but the Chasers use a special card given to them by Komorka to put their energies together and launch a super attack to defeat him. At the end of the episode, Komorka leaves the Chasers so she can talk to the Tigeroid elders about the convergence. Basically, the world of the Tigeroids and Dragonoids, Sun, has been out of balance since the tablet was shattered into all these cards. It's been left unbalanced for so long that it's starting to have ripple effects on Earth. Komorka asks Rai to keep the Chasers safe while she's gone, which he promises he will. The Dragonoid warriors are then introduced to their new general, a blonde pretty boy who they recognize and are shocked to see. Overall, season 1 was decently enjoyable. The animation isn't anything great, even when compared it to other shows at the same time. Characters can be annoying to listen to, and the dialogue can be really basic and repetitive at times, though I'm not sure how much of that is an issue with the original sub version or if it's mainly a 4Kids problem. And the overarching storyline is generic and doesn't have much to spice it up. If you didn't have any nostalgia from watching this as a kid, I wouldn't blame anyone for dropping it halfway through season 1, if not even earlier. But the second half of the season does include some good characterization and development, so it shows some promise for the rest of the show. Season 2 begins right where season 1 left off. We learn the pretty Dragonoid boy is named Mishka. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. He seems to have a history with Luca, saying how he expected a warmer welcome from him and the other warriors for their new general. Ave taunts Mishka by stating he wouldn't listen to someone younger. Mishka sets an early example as an antagonist when he uses a sound card to torture Ave for his remark, then demands all the warriors to kneel before him. Bring up Bakugan again. He reminds me a bit of Prince Hydron from New Vestroya, a younger person in a position of power who's very uncaring towards his subjects and has a smug, pompous attitude in everything he does. And when I say Mishka is very uncaring, that's sugarcoating it by a lot. By the end of this same episode, he electrocutes the Dragonoid lady Jahara as punishment for not getting the new Tai Chi card. Then next episode, he sets up a trap for Ave to use on the Chasers, only for Ave to fail. Ave is then sent back to Dragonoid's homeworld so he can be punished by the Emperor. It's implied by Garnia that the card Mishka planted as part of the trap was specifically chosen to set Ave up so the general could get rid of him. Mishka is a great addition to the cast for how he shakes up the status quo and raises the stakes. In season 1, the Dragonoids were like a lot of Monster of the Week type villains you'd find in cartoons. They would lose at the end of an episode, but would just lick their wounds until they appeared again and act pretty much the same as before. In season 2, the villains face actual consequences for losing each episode. Obviously, we want the Chasers to win and get all the cards, but having the villains face brutal punishments if they were to lose made me more invested in the events of this season than the previous one. On top of that, made me a little sympathetic towards the Dragonoids this season. That doesn't mean season 2 is without its lighthearted moments. I want to highlight episode 16, where the Tai Chi card of the episode makes everyone's dreams come true. After he threw it, reverses its effect and makes everyone experience their worst nightmare. I won't lie, the instant switch from dream to nightmare was unintentionally really fucking funny.
You know, this has been the best day of my life. My love.
Luca, knowing you love me makes me happier than I ever dreamed.
Well, that's funny, because I can't stand to be around you.
Luca, please don't go.
That's the one upside of 4Kids' style of writing. Their dubs always had a dry and witty sense of humor that can get a good laugh out of me, whether or not the moment was intentionally funny. Also, the Masked Warrior shows up to save Rai once again, but this time at the end of the episode, the other Chasers acknowledge the warrior's existence, going on about how they always show up when Rai is in trouble and that they must have a connect. You already know what the twist is. You already know. And to be fair, the episode actually ends with Rai connecting the dots and realizing that Tiger Warrior is very likely his mom, so at least the show isn't trying to act like it's a mystery now. In fact, this leads nicely into another moment I want to focus on. It's from the finale of season 2, but I'm not going to give a summary of the episode. I just want to bring attention to one scene.
I want to know who you are and why you're helping me. You don't need to know. Are you my mother?
This moment was all I remembered from the show for the longest time. Despite remembering next to nothing about the series before I rediscovered it, this specific moment stuck around as a vague memory in my mind for years. And I can kinda understand why. The episode aired in May 2012. I was 9 years old, so this show was one of my earliest experiences with identity reveal twists like this. Now, I'm not going to cover the third season. Like I said, it's only in Korean, and the English subtitles I can find are pretty bad, so I don't want to judge the quality of the season when the dialogue I'm reading is obviously butchered. Plus, as you could tell, I barely touched on what goes on in a majority of season 1 and especially season 2. So, if my video has made you at all interested in watching the show, at least you have a lot to look forward to that wasn't covered in this video, including a whole third season if you're willing to put up with what a beautiful Duang level translations. This is not a must-watch, though. Everything this show does, I've seen other series do it more creatively or just better. This show isn't terrible by any means. I had fun binging it for this video, and there's some legitimately good character writing. Senna is definitely my favorite character in this show, and Rai eventually grew on me as I kept watching. Luca, Jahara, and Mishka were interesting antagonists. The dub was actually better than I expected it to be. While not every vocal delivery was stellar, the voice cast for the major characters did pretty good jobs with the material they were given. But the animation is choppy, even for early 2000s standards. A lot of the side cast and episode plots end up being very generic with not much to add a fresh spin to a basic concept. Overall, I'd rate this show a light 6 out of 10, probably. As far as I could find, the only toys made from Tai Chi Chasers were the activators, the Tai Chi cards themselves, and a Hawk plushie, but all of those were only sold in South Korea. As far as I could find, 4Kids didn't sell any merchandise off this series in the West. Also, while doing research of what Tai Chi Chasers merch exists, I found a Facebook page centered around wanting to bring back the show and dub the final season. But the latest post is from 2014, so I think everyone just gave up. This show has been very much forgotten. No one talks about it when talking about 4Kids. I had to dig deep to find any behind the scenes info, which even includes the English voice cast beyond Veronica Taylor and Bella Hudson. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I rediscovered this show from my childhood, and hopefully I helped other people remember this show from their own childhoods. Will I make future videos on this show? No, probably not, unless by some miracle I get in contact with any of the voice actors and can interview them. I'm a dude with less than 200 subscribers at the time of writing the script, so very doubtful that will ever happen. But I can tell you what I will be doing. Pretty soon I will begin live streaming on Twitch, playing games such as Honkai Star Rail, the Mega Man Battle Network games, and Persona 3 Reload once that comes out. Look forward to that, and thank you for watching until the end of this video. I hope to see you all again, either on stream or in my next video. I'll try not to take 3 months to make my next video, by the way. I'm sorry for the wait on this. It was the holidays. I got a new laptop plus a pop filter and everything, to help with the production of videos. So, hopefully you'll be able to tell that, video quality has gone up a pretty good amount. Hopefully, me live streaming helps grow the channel. That's it for me. Thank you for visiting the Matsunoki Cafe, and I'll see you next time.